Good morning, everybody. 20 years ago, as a young bride, I walked into this region of the Middle East. One morning, as me and my husband were having a cup of coffee, he said that he got a call from a friend of his in India who wanted to set up an industrial products business in the Middle East. He already had a job, so he told me, Sandhya, would you like to take this on and grow this business in the Middle East for this gentleman? For this hotshot management graduate with a couple of years' experience, this was something to die for. But something held me back. And I was asking myself, what's your problem? Why are you thinking so much? Within a week, I got another call from the Silicon Valley. A batchmate of mine wanted me to represent a company and start that business right here. One part of me was saying, just do it. And the other part said, just hold on, think about it. I went down to a coffee morning with all my girlfriends. And they said, let's organize a social event. On a normal day, this would be something I would say yes to and jump immediately. What's the big deal? But no, something held me back. I'm a very adventurous spirited person, very impulsive. I would just jump on the bandwagon for anything. And I wanted to dig my own desert rose in the desert. You've seen these desert roses, haven't you? But still something was holding me back. And every time something I loved came in front of me, I was holding myself back. And I was wondering what this fear is. What is this obstacle that's making me not say yes? Well, I was a new expat woman in Saudi Arabia. There is a huge list of do's that are given to you when you enter Saudi Arabia, and especially as a lady. And there is an even longer list of don'ts that is given to you, and it is emphasized again and again in every interaction. So what happens to this enthusiastic person is there is a fear that starts getting created around. I said, okay, before I step out of the house, let me try and think, what are the fears within me? And this was one fear that I always had, was this: I was scared of heights. And I said, okay, let me try and tackle that fear first. How do I overcome that fear of heights? The only way I could do, yes, was to skydive. So I got on and put this entire fear that I had into a black box and kept it on the side. And the other side, which was fully of faith, I put it into another box and gave it to Michael. Michael was the tandem jumper with me from 12,000 feet. So as I sat on the edge of that single-engine plane, the entire fear that just vanished into the sky, I was completely surrendered to Michael, and we jumped off that plane. Fear and faith both expect you to see something and believe in something that you cannot see. Suppose, for example, if I have a blindfold on my eye and I'm asked to walk in front, the choice is with me whether I want to walk with fear in my heart or complete faith. The moment I learned this, I told my husband, yes, make that call to your friend. Let's start the industrial products business that he wanted us to represent. It was no ordinary business. It was a business in conveyor belts, which actually was in the middle of the desert into crusher plants. Just making the phone call to wholesalers, distributors, and telling them that I'm a lady who is here, who knows engineering, who knows management, was a tough task in Saudi at that time, 20 years ago. And a lady traveling alone, in spite of the fact that my husband would sign a letter and say, I give permission for her to travel, it was a challenge. It was a huge challenge. But end of 3 years, my friend, he had done $1 million worth of business. That's not the end. We were very successful as a business. But what was interesting was on the day we went to sign the order, We were three of us, if you can see on the photo on the right side. And me in my abaya, fully covered, yes. And that's my husband on my right side. You have to travel with your husband. And the end of it, our Saudi partner, he took us to his camp in the desert and gave us some nice tea. But the best part was, just before we started to drive back, he jumped down and he picked up these beautiful wild purple flowers which were growing in the desert, made it into a bouquet, and came and gave it to me. Till today, I treasure that bouquet as the first love for the desert that grew in me in the Middle East and has kept me going for the past 20 years. The second business, which was the software business, I made a call immediately after this and told my friend, yes. So he said, go ahead, do a market survey. And for a market survey, IT exhibitions in Dubai, we can just walk in. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, it was not so easy. There was a family day when women could go into a exhibition. So in that particular family day, even when I went in there and spoke business, the people who were there at the stands would not believe it. They would be thinking, oh, this woman's come, she's a teacher, and she's going to buy some educational software probably, or she's just wanting to see how much the laptop costs. Okay, so it was a great challenge to convince people that you knew something of importance and to take you seriously in the first place. After 2 years, we had a friend with a successful software business. My girlfriends, we all got together and formed the Indian Women's Association to represent women and what we can do. That gave about 70 families a forum to express themselves, dance, fashion shows, quite a lot of things that we did, everything legally. And believe it or not, mixed gatherings were a big no-no unless everything was well set and approved. Okay? So we did that, and finally we began to live in Saudi Arabia with all this. And for me personally, I had overcome every fear and I could continue to dream. And not to miss, the desert rose. And the biggest challenge, ladies cannot drive in Saudi Arabia. So I had two options. One, to leave the country at that time and find a place which was more free, or to change my attitude. I started taking pride in being driven. I just thought I was like royalty. So what if I cannot drive? If there's a driver taking me, I feel like a queen. Okay? It is delusional, I don't deny, but it served the purpose. We all ladies got together, went to the desert, dug desert roses. You don't see us in abayas here. That's because it was so remote in the clay area that we all took off our abayas and put it in the bus. Okay? So this particular, I've just highlighted a few to show you the powerful effort that was needed for day-to-day tasks which we take for granted today anywhere else in the world. This powerful effort grew the faith that I had in myself, that I had in the rest of the society, and the society helped me to continue have that faith. But the glasses of fear that stayed on my eyes continued. Okay? I was always looking through the glasses of fear. There were many other success stories in my stay there when I was living in Saudi Arabia, and each one of them fueled the next dream for myself personally. Dare to dream, the topic of today. Art is my messenger. This is the second part of my presentation, and I want you to understand what happened about a year ago and how I changed as a person and I began to dream bigger dreams. My son, he was 18. He was born in Saudi Arabia, by the way, and that's an entire story in itself on the challenges of bringing a child up in that country. About a year ago, he decided he was going to go to college, and I began spring cleaning the house because you kind of, change things. So the cupboard, a lot of things came out, books went to charities, books were given away, old clothes, so on and so forth. So as we were cleaning, we had this entire room full of paints, a cupboard full of paints that were there. Am I okay on time? Yeah, okay. The entire room full of paints. So the paints, I took them all and put it in the dustbin. I had thought he's going to be a painter and he'd love to do something. I never painted except in school many, many years ago. So as I threw it, he walked into the door and said, Mom, they're going to have a party to celebrate in school, all the going away students, and parents are invited. Parents are not only invited, the teachers are throwing the party. So then this light bulb burned. And when you get these ideas, I began to create. I went to the dustbin, picked up all the paints that were lying there, and I began to create. I decided this time when I'm creating, there's going to be nothing coming in between myself and that expression, that is the paper. So I used my fingers and nails to start painting. I said, let me experiment. And I made 12 paintings. We took it to the party. We allowed the people to choose it, the teachers to choose it. And they came back with excellent feedback. Whenever you get this burst of idea, it is very, very similar to the hatching of an egg or sprouting of a seed. When a seed is sprouting, you always need some dark. You need time, a gestation period, okay, time for it to sprout. And you need a whole lot of energy. And this particular energy has to come from within. You cannot hatch an egg by putting the force from outside. We all know that. Same way, when you have an idea, a seed sprouting or an egg hatching, the energy has to come from within. Now, what is the source of that energy? What is the trigger for that energy? Imagine on this particular painting as yourself, each one of us here, okay? Each one of us is assuming this entire square, and then you have little squares inside, very colorful ones. Each one, imagine that it's a role that you play. It could be a father, a daughter, a plumber, a mechanic, a singer, a bird watcher, maybe just anything. Put yourself in these boxes. At every point in life, or every moment in life, you will play one role to the fullest. So that particular box becomes the whole box, which is you. Now, with that kind of a revelation, the energy flow helped me to get more and more bold. Abstract art is endless, right? You can do what you want. But I started experimenting with colors. I also found a new sense of freedom with this new form of expression where I was never trained as an artist. I never knew how to paint except what you learn in school. And I started creating this art which started resonating with friends, with family, with people. And the silver lining. The name for this painting came after months after having come out. But I then went back and found out what is the cause. Why am I creating all this? Without any intention, without intending to be a painter, without intending to do anything. And I gave this silver lining, and then I said, maybe I have this wonderful attitude to life where I see a silver lining in every cloud. I began to dream afresh, again, as a new person. I even gave my painting name a new name to myself. And figured this energy which is coming from within is limitless. It is not only limitless, it is in abundance, it is available, and I want to share with you today on this TED platform that this energy is available to each and every one of you to harness once you find that expression and you can dream that dream. Now, that entire energy will still continue to fuel your faith in yourself, faith and belief in yourself. But this time, I had taken off the glasses of fear. There was no via media for this faith to be fueled, so it was abundant. And the subtle shift that has happened is effortless power. You don't need to have power which is full of effort. This was effortless power. Just a couple of more examples. I made this painting and left it. I didn't know what this was. Then one day, I decided to name it, and the name came to me, plankton. You know, you have these zooplanktons and phytoplanktons at the bottom of the ocean with a lot of growth and enriching growth. And then I said, why did I do this? What was in my past that made me do this? There has to be a cause and effect for everything that is happening. And I remembered my 11 years I spent on the banks of the river Ganges, a very, very fertile plain, fresh air, anything, a seed you throw into the soil, you'll have a guava tree. You know, it's that fertile. So probably that time was being reflected in this painting. This was another piece of art that came out. And when you look at it, people started seeing different images of what they wanted to see. This was meant for everybody else as much as it was for myself. And I started thinking, in fact, if you see, there's a little brown here and there. So what I did, I was sitting there and I had gone to a sand dune and picked up a box full of desert sand. So I just took the desert sand and put it on it. And I named it Margam. On the way to Alain, there's a little spot called Margam. There are beautiful dunes. If you haven't been there, you need to go. Spend some time. And I started thinking, why? Why did I create this? What was the cause? It was my love for the desert sand that had helped me to create this. Let me tell you a small story. A squirrel and a mountain had this chat. The mountain was this boastful, huge, structure talking to this little squirrel. And the mountain said, I am carrying all these heavy rocks on my back, the boulders, the big trees. I'm the strongest, and you need to, respect me. Don't keep running around like this on me all the time. And the squirrel, with quiet confidence, sat there, and it told the mountain, if I cannot carry trees on my back, neither can you crack a nut. Very sensible. Each of us is unique. Unique in our abilities, unique in what is within us, and unique in our perspectives. Art was my messenger. From powerful effort, I made that shift to harnessing effortless power and expressing. Art was my messenger. What is yours? Dream as if you will live forever, and live as if you will die at any moment. I'd like to end today's session with one of my favorite songs, with your permission. I have a dream, a fantasy, to help me cope with anything. If you see the wonder of a fairy tale, you can take the future, even if you fail. I have a dream, a fantasy.